Hello, welcome to Money Matters TV. My name is Mike Verrill and I'm the Vice President of Strategic Development with the Sharp Financial Group. We're an integrated financial management firm helping business owners create value and grow wealth. Our unique interconnected approach combines business advisory, accounting and tax, wealth management, and capital solutions designed to help those entrepreneurs achieve business and personal success. Thank you for joining us for our continuing discussion on growth stories, where we hear from entrepreneurs and advisors who share secrets and advice on what business owners need to know to grow. From time to time, financial issues relating to life sciences, healthcare, and technology issues and companies may be discussed on this program. Those discussions are not and should not be viewed as financial advice. Moreover, since the program is pre-recorded and shown at a later date, much of the discussion may no longer be current. You should always check with your financial advisor before entering into any financial transaction. I'm joined today by my guest, Ryan Clark. Ryan is the founder and co-CEO of PeopleShare. PeopleShare is the fastest growing temporary staffing and HR outsourcing firms in the Philadelphia region. After starting the firm in 2005 with a partner, Ryan played an instrumental role in helping the company grow from scratch to 20 locations in 7 states and one of the largest staffing companies in the Northeast U.S. After over 20 years of experience in the staffing industry, both working for publicly traded companies and then building one of his own, he has a great perspective on what it takes to succeed. A true entrepreneurial risk taker, Ryan left a safe corporate job with a great idea and a knowledge that knowing that putting in the hard work to grow his company would help lead to success. A thoughtful CEO with a strong emphasis on developing and following a process that supports growth, it is my pleasure to welcome Ryan to Growth Stories. Welcome, Ryan.
Great. That was an uncomfortable introduction. I wish you could read that to my kids.
Exactly. And your wife too, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, mine as well. Great to have you here. We're looking forward to hearing your story today and sharing some entrepreneurial insight.
Great.
But before we do that, I was hoping you could help me out and answer a question from one of our viewers.
Okay.
As a successful CEO, this will be a perfect opportunity for you because I think it's something that you probably have some familiarity with. Norman Feingold of Ardmore would like to know, what is the first and second item you'd like to achieve with improving a CEO's performance?
I would say number one, without a doubt, it's time management. I think that when you get your I don't consider myself a classic entrepreneur, but when you get an entrepreneur, you want to control things. So if you want to control things, that's fine. But you can't scale a business controlling everything. If you're making every decision on which printer to use and and involved in every little nuance of your business, you're not going to scale it. So that's the thing that I've struggled with the most. But somebody gave me some good advice that unless you're doing one of 3 things, you're doing something wrong with your time. So it's either 1, be the chief sales officer closing big deals, 2, be the chief people officer where you're pumping people up or bringing people into the company, or 3, working on strategy. If you're doing anything else, it's probably wasting your time. So I would say without a doubt, it's time management, and time management. I think some of the best CEOs work the fewest hours. It's kind of counterintuitive, but
right.
That's what I've read.
Yeah, that's great advice. Hopefully that was helpful, Norman. It's always great to hear from our viewers. To submit questions for a future show, here's how to send your questions to Money Matters.
You can have your questions answered on Money Matters. Please go to our website, money-matterstv.com. On our homepage, click on the banner on the right that says Send Us Your Questions. While you're on our website, you can find information about our host and guests, as well as show notes and links about this show and past shows. Money Matters is also available as a podcast on iTunes and Stitcher, so you can listen to Money Matters while you're on the go. That website address, again, is money, M-O-N-E-Y, -matters, M-A-T-T-E-R-S, TV.com.
Welcome back. Ryan, many of our viewers are would-be entrepreneurs wondering if they have the characteristics and traits to take that great idea that they have and build a business around it and take the risk to go out on their own. You didn't necessarily see yourself as a risk taker early on. Can you give us some insight in your background as you were a kid growing up and kind of what you were dealing with or kind of your thought process when you're in those developmental years?
Yeah, I wish I could tell you that I was the kid that created something when I was a kid and had the lemonade stand, but had a pretty traditional middle class background growing up in New England, and traditional college, and then just went right to work for a couple publicly traded staffing companies. So maybe I diminish a little bit. Maybe it was a bigger risk than I thought, but to me, working for a big publicly traded staffing company, to me there was a lot of risk in that. I worked for a pharmaceutical company and publicly traded staffing companies. They're the ups and downs. So you saw good people getting cut all the time. So that's a little counterintuitive too. You think that there's more security with those big companies, but right. I realized that as hard as I was working, I still wasn't indispensable or indisposable. So starting my own staffing company was probably not as risky as I think, because at least I had control of what I was doing.
Okay. Entrepreneurs need to have a passion for something. So what was the passion that kind of drove you to be successful? You're not an entrepreneur yet, right? You're doing the big thing. I agree with you, by the way, that having the control of your destiny in someone else's hands always seems heck of a lot riskier than having your own company.
Yeah, it's a myth.
Right.
Thinking
right.
that you're safe there.
Yeah. But that's kind of an American assumption, right? You go to the board for the big company and you're protected there. So what were some of the things early on that drove the passion? You talked a little bit to me about nice middle class upbringing. It sounds like we probably had a lot of similar background from that standpoint.
Yep, we do.
But your parents weren't driving the fancy car, your dad wasn't heading off to the country club, those sorts of things. So what were some of the other early experiences that really kind of drove a fire in you, so to speak?
Well, I would say that 90% of my lessons that I've learned, business, life, relationships, everything came from my childhood, and my childhood really revolved around playing hockey. And if you're a hockey fan or you're not a hockey fan, even if you're not a hockey fan, I think that most people would agree you've got to be tough to play that sport and have some stick-to-itiveness and competitive and I didn't have a lot of God-given talent,
right.
But I played at a pretty high level because I had that drive. So it was competition that was driving me, and I was one of those people that didn't like to win so much, but I just hated to lose. So I think that carried right over after I stopped playing hockey and really started my business career. That's what was that doesn't leave you. Mm-hmm. Not to make any comparison that I was Michael Jordan,
right?
Because I wasn't.
Right.
I was about 500 levels below him and his athletic talent, but he's still driven because it's in him. Even though he's won so many championships, he still wants more. So it's definitely the competitive fire from playing hockey all my life.
And those guys that maybe have a little less talent, that natural talent, like you said, would have to work really hard just to equal the level. Those guys are just naturally born with it. And that's a whole separate level, I think, of drive that creates you.
Yeah, and if you look at the business that I'm in, the staffing business, you have to have some smarts to be in it, but it's not a terribly cerebral business.
Right.
It's hustle. It's passion, it's drive, it's work ethic. It's all the
going
things
hard
that
to the corners, right? Going hard to
exactly,
the corners and
exactly.
grind it a little
That's
bit.
That's right. Yeah, I was a grinder,
absolutely.
And not afraid to get in the corners, not afraid to do what we had to do to drive the business. Yeah.
Right. That's great. So you're starting out. You're graduated high school. You're thinking, okay, now where do I take this thing? You off to college. Did you have any anticipation of playing hockey in college, or was that kind of not a route that you were following?
Yeah, that's why I ended up going to Merrimack College specifically to play hockey.
Okay.
And I didn't have a career after college, but did well enough to play through college, and then after that it was pretty much I'd say that that's what most of the people that I grew up with were, playing hockey, going to school, and going straight into business.
Okay. And so is that what major you selected, a business major, or what did you?
I was actually an English major, Mike. In retrospect, I think that business or a marketing degree would have been more appropriate, but I think that everybody in some way, shape, or fashion chooses the path of least resistance in their life, and I could write well, and that's why I wanted to be an English major, because I thought I would excel at that. And so, when you think about the things that I use every single day from high school or from college, writing skills, that matters. As you're drafting a contract,
Right.
or just sending an email to an employee or to a group of employees or to a customer. So I could always write pretty well. So that would be my second career. I actually want to be a
Be
writer.
a writer?
Yeah.
We'd write a book to tell the story.
Yeah. You'll buy
That's
it,
great.
right?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right,
I'll
good.
be your
I got one
first
sold.
One. Good start,
Closing it.
right?
Exactly.
Absolutely. That's great. So you graduate college, you got an English degree,
Yep.
but you've got this competitive nature about you. You're driven. You want to be financially successful. What is an English major? What career path? Where do you go from there? What's your opportunities, or what are you looking at?
Yeah, and I will be completely candid with you. Money was a big driver for me. I always wanted to really make a lot of money, not because I wanted anything to show off and drive a crazy car, red Ferrari, but it was just more money driven, to have security, to
Right.
not have to worry about
Right.
the bills coming in. So I got a job pretty soon out of school, doing the pharmaceutical sales route and working for Big Pharma. What I found was that was a rewarding career, because it gave you a lot of training, definitely a lot of great experience, a lot of great connections. But as hard as you worked, there was definitely a ceiling. You were definitely capped when it came to income,
Right.
and that's why I kind of decided to migrate out of that and more to a direct sale,
Okay.
kind of a sign on the dotted line type sale. You can really measure your success, and that's when I got into staffing, probably in the late 90s.
Okay. So you leave pharmaceuticals, where you're, whining and dining doctors at that time, back when you could do that, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And decide to, and that's a little bit of a risk there, right?
I was going to say that
that's-
was as much of a risk to me,
yeah.
leaving a really cushy job, and that was definitely cushy.
Yep.
I became good at after doing it for several years, to going into a completely different industry,
Yeah.
where I was just, you eat what you
You
kill.
eat what you kill,
So
absolutely.
that was, I would say a fairly big risk.
Right. As people used to tell me, operating without a net, So you're on the high wire. There's no net. There's
You got it.
nothing going to catch you when you fall.
Yep. Yep.
You lose that deal, there's nothing behind it. You
Yeah.
gotta go on, try to win the next one.
Yeah, if you lose the next one and the next one after that, you're out of a job.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. Yeah. So
Yep.
that's some great entrepreneurial training right there. I mean, that builds a strong sales foundation. The successful entrepreneurs that I've been around are able to sell, whether they're a technical expert or they have a great idea to solve a world-needed problem. At the end of the day, they can communicate well, which is your writing ability, right? Your skills. And they know how to sell. They know how to convince others to follow their vision and ideas to generate income.
Yeah,
And
that's what they say about the Fortune 500. 75% of those are sales guys that kind of rose up through the ranks.
Yeah.
Very few finance guys,
Right.
a few ops guys, but it's mostly sales guys
Yep.
that are.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, if the company's not generating revenue, it's going to go away, right?
Yep,
There's
you
not
got
much there, too.
Yep.
So you're building a great foundation to be an entrepreneur, right? You're taking some risk. You're getting sales skills. So some of the things, I mean, you work for these large companies. You told me the benefit of the pharmaceutical company was the training program and kind of discipline and showing a process. So you're starting to kind of learn the process is important to be successful, I guess. Is that inherent in you, or is that something a skill you're learning along the way and seeing that, hey, you got to follow a certain path here. It's just not shotgun approach.
Yeah, I probably didn't really understand. I knew how to follow a process, but I probably didn't understand the importance of it because working for publicly traded companies, you come in and it's kind of a cookie cutter approach or a very formulated approach, and that was fine. But I probably didn't realize the value in it until really starting PeopleShare and realizing that I could just kind of figure it out on my own. But if you hire somebody else, they really need that roadmap.
Right.
So,
right. So those kind of skills are in the back of your mind, maybe subconsciously, right? You don't know them yet. So
exactly. I knew it, but I didn't know that I knew it.
Yeah, but you didn't know you needed
Right,
it yet.
right,
So you need
exactly.
it, right? And then it's there. Well, that's great. So you're working in the staffing business. You don't consider yourself a real risk taker at that point, although you've taken some risk, but
Yeah.
maybe not to start your own company. But so talk me through that a little bit. Like how do you go from, look, I made the move. I'm sure the money got better when you work in staffing than pharmaceutical sales. So you're
Yeah.
starting to achieve some of that financial success. Well, how do you go from there to, what, I want to do this on my own? Like how do you overcome that kind of fear or gain that courage that maybe you didn't think you had?
Well, I'd say a lot of it was driven out of frustration of working for. I was a middle management at my previous staffing company. I really couldn't affect change. I'd see something wrong. I'd see something wrong with our process, with our culture, trying to do something creative, and I couldn't affect change. I couldn't affect our culture, and that's probably what was driving me. Not that need to have my own company and be that true entrepreneur and have that title of a founder or a CEO. I was just getting really frustrated, realizing I'm not going to really affect anything. Maybe I could affect my own lot, but I was only as good as the company was. So
Right.
we're part of a huge conglomerate that owned us. So it was probably born out of that frustration. And life's about timing, which I absolutely believe, but a lot of it's the relationships that you've built that kind of create that timing. So, I have a great, I had a great partner, still do,
Right.
still my partner today, going on 12 years now. And he really came to me and said that he was also frustrated with the bureaucracy, the lack of ability to change things at a huge company. And we just got to talk, and he said, hey, let's do our own thing. We know how driven we are. We've got to make sure that our goals are aligned. So that was really the first conversation that I had with my partner.
So teaming up with somebody else with similar ideas and vision gives you a little bit more courage, right? I mean,
Yeah, absolutely.
That's great.
I found that pretty much any project that you do, whether it's a project around the house or a project at work, it's one thing that all of those projects have in common, that they get done better with collaboration.
Absolutely.
And you're doing something on your own, you get 2 or 3 guys or 2 or 3 people doing it.
I try to convince my son of that, to
How's
get in
that?
there.
How's that work? He didn't understand that
It's like
lesson.
a hit or
yet.
miss thing.
Yeah, we
I
did
don't
the
know.
yard
You have
work
kids,
together.
right?
Right? Yeah.
Sometimes they're amazing at how well they are at watching Dad do something.
Right.
It never occurs to them to say, "Hey, can I give you a hand?" Right. I guess that's something that they get as they grow older, hopefully.
Right. But you hit on something that I probably hadn't thought of. Is that there was a lot of security and comfort in the fact that we were going to do it together and that we would rely on each other. And there isn't a week that goes by that we still don't talk now where we don't say, man, I'm glad I'm not in this business alone.
Right.
'Cause,
Right.
we're making decisions, and
Yeah.
it's just great to have each other to
Right.
to bounce that off of.
Yeah, that's hugely important, right? I think sometimes entrepreneurs too feel like they got to go at it on their own, and really, if you can partner somebody with a similar vision, you're going to hopefully, 2 heads are better than one, right? That's a saying for a reason, I guess.
No doubt.
Yeah.
No doubt.
So you have this comfort, your partner, you jump out right away, say that's it, we're cutting bait, and we're going to go do this on our own. We got it all figured out. Is that how it went, or?
That's exactly how it went.
Okay.
We figured it out that our goals were aligned, that we wanted the same thing. We didn't just want a small mom and pop. We wanted
Right,
to grow it.
right,
We wanted to grow it into a few offices, and then a regional player, and then eventually go national and be acquired. So we had that same vision. Took us, I want to say, close to about a year to write our business plan.
Okay. So you did that before you left the company.
Yep.
Yeah. So you were very thoughtful. We made that
No doubt.
mention in the beginning of the conversation, right? You're thoughtful in how you approach that.
Yep.
I think that's something too that is important to know, that even if you have a great idea and you're passionate about it and you think you can do it great, you still want to step back, write the business plan. How many pages was the business plan?
68 pages.
68 pages. So
Yeah.
it wasn't on the back of a cocktail napkin. It was a real earnest plan that you put in place with a partner. We're very thoughtful, and before you made step one.
Yeah, and I think they could rename a business plan. They could call it a roadmap.
Right.
We're going to take 95 north for, 112 miles, go off on 78. It was a real roadmap for us. And the reason I feel like that is, you look at what our business plan was, and what we executed. It was eerily similar.
Right. Right.
And I don't think we got there by accident.
Yeah.
But we wrote it out, had an exact vision, referred to it a lot.
Right. That's great. Now, did you have a plan B? Hey, what if this doesn't work?
I think if you have a contingency plan, you tend to use it.
Right.
So we were all in.
Yeah.
We didn't have any outside investors. Put our homes on the line. It's probably the extra motivation that we needed to do it.
Right. Funny how that works, right?
Yeah, miraculous.
All of a sudden your
When you-
wife's involved too, and
Yeah.
this thing's got to be successful.
Yeah, fortunately at the time it was a little bit easier, and that's the other reason that I feel that it wasn't the biggest risk is, wasn't married,
Okay.
didn't have any kids 12 years
Right.
ago, so it was a little bit easier, and I
Yeah,
had a
that's
decent amount of savings, and so it wasn't as, and that's one of the reasons I said it wasn't as big of a risk, but I knew that if I didn't make it, like, I had nobody to say, hey, can you bail me out, or
Right.
I'm just
Right.
going to be living on some trust fund baby.
Uh-huh.
It wasn't even close to that.
None
So,
of that in the background.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. So you and your partner start. You got everything in place now. You're out on your own. PeopleShare, moniker out. Is it a runaway success from there? What did take us through that early time in the company?
We talk about the amount of challenges and pitfalls and traps that we fell into over 12 years, and count them on one hand. It really was. It went so much better than we ever thought it would.
That's great.
Maybe this was an omen, a good omen, when it was actually, we started January 1st of 05. We got our furniture set up December of 04. We were able to move into our space about 2 weeks early. And so as the furniture's rolling in the furniture, he comes by to check on it. And I said, Louis, I'm giving you $3,000 worth of furniture. Like, you're going to retire on my deal. You got to give me something back. You must know somebody that uses staffing, somebody that's got any kind of a need. And he says, yeah, I think I got your first customer. You're looking at him. I actually have a need. So I'm like, oh no, what do I do now? We don't even have candidates. So, we didn't have computers for the first 2 weeks.
Oh, wow,
all we had
okay.
was desks. So I'm like, man, I got to fill this order now. So
Right.
First 2 weeks, I'm going to the King of Prussia library,
Uh-huh.
going onto their computer, finding resumes on Monster.com,
Right.
calling these people when I get back into the office, and I drum up 2 candidates for him. And hopefully he's going to choose one of these 2 candidates.
Right.
And they're both pretty solid people. And he calls me a couple days later with the feedback. He says, yeah, I really like them both. I think I'm going to hire both of them. So we got 1 job order, and we filled it
2.
with 2 people. And and it was, right away, we really never had a lull.
Yeah.
And 05, 6, 7, and then 08 came, and we just drove right through that, and, still growing 70 to 80% per year through '08 and '09.
So you even managed to grow through the downturn.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's fantastic. So one of the things you mentioned is when you were setting up PeopleShare, with all that experience you had in some of the other staffing firms, you had a kind of an anti-establishment philosophy. You were going to do things differently. Talk about a couple of those things that you learned along the way. That you said, you know what, this company's going to be different. How is that going to be different? What did you do?
We're anti-conference call, anti-meeting. If a contract made sense to us and we wanted to do business with them, they'd be producing a 40-page contract, and we'd just be scrolling through. We would hit page 40, go to the signature page, and just sign it. We didn't know what was in the contract.
Right.
So we were just anti-establishment is a good way to say it.
Right.
No meetings, no conference calls, contracts. We just sign them, and it caught up to us a little bit later. But in the beginning, we're just going to be zero bureaucracy.
Right.
Found out after a few years and a couple bad deals, bad debt deals that we did, probably need to put in some credit checks.
Right.
Have an attorney.
A little bit of governance along the way, maybe. Never hurt.
Just a little bit. We had none.
Right.
Yeah, just a little bit. Would have been good. So that's what we were striving for.
We're kind of wrapping up here. So I guess there's so much more to talk about the story. I mean, you grew a very successful company over a number of years, and we're at the first year here. So let's save for another time some more information, because I'd love to talk to you about that. But
Great.
Can you just one or two? You shared kind of your CEO perspective, but if you had to tell the viewers, the audience out there, would-be entrepreneur or business owner, like one or two things that really help them kind of achieve that next level in their business, what would you recommend, or what would you suggest?
I think everybody talks about starting their own company, and this is what they want out of it. They want that freedom, entrepreneurship. They want that income. They want to grow a saleable asset, and those are all good things to look at. But I think that some of the people that are really successful are looking at what they're willing to give up. Mm-hmm. So I think that most people don't scale their business because they don't invest enough into it.
Right.
We had a client that had a client appreciation. It was kind of like a happy hour, and a lot of people got together for this, and it was a cash bar, because they're just trying to grow their business, brand new business.
Right.
That's when you really need to invest the time. Okay. So I would say, look at what you're willing to give up to be successful.
Invest in business too.
Yeah,
that's great.
Dig in.
Great. Yeah. Well, thank you very much, Ryan. We
Mike,
appreciate your time.
Thanks a lot.
The next guest for Money Matters TV will be Nancy O'Toole, the founder at Live at Home Seniors. As a reminder, you can download the podcast from iTunes and Stitcher, as well as see programs on the YouTube channel and the website money-matterstv.com. Thank you for spending time with us today.